everybody. I have a little treat for you, a little peek at Zoom class again. And this is all about learning how to maintain your performance all the way through from action to cut. And I wanted my students to understand what it's like to have close-up coverage, because on every scene that's shot, it's going to be done many, many times, because they're going to shoot it from distance and close-ups. They're going to do long shots, the medium shots. They're going to have two people at a time. And then every single person that's in the scene is going to have their close-up coverage. And that means the camera is just on them for the entire scene. Now, why is this important that you keep your character alive through the whole thing? But you can't just make reactions. Oh, ah, e. No. It has to come from the inside. It has to be organic responses to what is happening in the other person. And so the only way to do that, as far as I'm concerned, is by just thinking the thoughts of your character and to allow the other person to change your thoughts so that you're reacting and responding all the time. I want you to be able to watch them and see if they ever stop being their character. Remember what I always say, what you think is what you are. So if you're thinking the thoughts of your character, you will be your character. If you're thinking your own thoughts, you will be you. And if you stop thinking and you're holding and waiting, you cease to exist as a living person. So that's what you want to be able to do when you're acting, is to be nonstop. Thinking, talking, responding, replying, reacting. That's what acting is all about, is staying in your character from beginning to end, from action to cut. From the moment you walk on stage to the moment you walk off, you're always in your character's mind and being your character. Want to make sure you understand. I never want you to think about what you're trying to look like when you're acting. You understand that, right? That's never what I want you to do. But you can see what's working and what's not, and that you can probably be able to see when you're not thinking the thoughts of your character, when you're trying to look like you are and when you really are, because that's what really makes the difference. When you're totally involved in your character's mind, is so different than when you're trying to look like you are. Do you know the difference? Can you feel yourself doing both of those things sometimes?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? And the challenge is to try to stay in the character's mind as much as possible, okay? And to allow the other character to trigger you. For instance, Ali, in the beginning of this, when you first see her. Now, when was the last time you saw her? When was the last time you laid eyes on her?
A long time ago.
Was it the day she walked out? The day, that day? You haven't seen her since then, okay? And so all those feelings of, you had no idea she was going to do this, right? Did you warn him?
No.
There was no warning. There was no warning that she just walked out on you and the kid. And now you're seeing her for the very first time. Okay? Can you imagine how important that moment is of just laying eyes on her? Because the last time you saw her, you thought you were married.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly you're not, and suddenly you're the sole caretaker of your child, and that she just abandoned him, this little boy who wanted his mommy. So there's got to be a million thoughts in your mind when you first see her.
Because it was just like, I walked out on him and I'm about to drop the bomb on him. So it's like,
So what are you actually thinking?
I was thinking, he's gonna be mad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, this is pretty embarrassing. Yeah, you probably hate me, right?
Yeah, or he's going to hate me. So
Yeah. Well, he probably does hate you already. You walked out on him. This is the first time he's seen you when you abandoned him and the kid, and he had no idea how to raise a child. He had no experience with him. He was a workaholic before this, and he had very little involvement with his son.
yeah.
And then you just walked away. You didn't care that he had no involvement with his son. You knew he couldn't take care of his baby, this baby that's yours, right? You knew he couldn't do it, but you didn't care. You just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Right? So you know that when you walk up to him, that he already hates you.
Right. Okay.
For that.
And it's like it's the guilt and the nervousness and anxiety
Right.
to come out and say, I'm gonna fight.
And it's really important. I mean, I did see you thinking your character's thoughts, but it's really important that you think actual thoughts, not what you're thinking about, right? Yeah. You're actually thinking lines like they were written in the script. You don't have to have them memorized, but you need to and they can be different every time. But you need to look at him and think what actual things, like, hey, you hate me now, you're going to hate me more later, whatever, actual thoughts, almost like you're talking to him.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mentioned to Ali yesterday too that it's easier since this was easier for me because I was able to go off of him. You know, he made it easier for me to go back and forth with him.
When was that?
No, when we were practicing yesterday. I mentioned that, you know, like he made it easier for me to do that because he's, you know, with his character and stuff, I was able to bounce off of his and remember my lines, remember the mood. We set a tone and we stuck with it.
That's what acting's all about. Being in the moment and letting the other person trigger you, and it becomes real for you because it is real. It's actually real. Because you're both feeling and you're both playing off each other and you're both opposing each other, and it's real. And the more you can tap into that, you know, you get into the magical aspect of acting. That's what it's all about. Feeling like you're actually in some kind of a time machine that brings you to another place in time, and you're somebody else. You know, that's what it's all about. So that's what you're going for. You know, and when you're rehearsing, you want to try to get there because you want to get used to getting there. Some people consider that a miraculous event that sometimes happens. But as a skilled actor, you want to be able to do it on purpose anytime you want. It's not just by chance that the magic happens. No, it happens because you know how to make it happen every time. And that's about hitting the refresh button in your mind, you know, resetting and getting back to it's now the first time I've ever done this. It's now the first time I've ever spoken to this person in this situation. It's the first time I've ever said these words. You just have to hit that reset button. And you have to do that when you say to the other person, could you give me your line? Right? And then you hit the reset button, and it's the first time you've heard them say it. That's really, really important as an actor, of knowing how to do that. You just get back into it. You get back into the moment. You understand? And what I'd like you each to do is, when you watch yourself, pretend like you're the other character. So you play Ali's part, Ali, you play her part. And so you watch yourself, and you're the other person. And when do you believe them? When do you not believe them? When do they seem to be off somewhere else? When does that person, because you're looking at yourself as the other person now, and you're playing off them. And just notice, when do you think they're not really responding to you? It doesn't happen very often, but that's the way you make it better, isn't it? By noticing, you weren't really connected there. You weren't really in the moment there. Because that's where you need to be all the time, in that spontaneous flow of reacting. I gotta talk. Now you're talking and I gotta react. Right? That's what acting's all about. So what are you gonna work on next time?
more specific thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that'll really help you, Ali, and both of you. It'll help both of you. But every once in a while, I just thought I saw more generic thoughts happening from you, Ali.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you were good all the way through. I'm not saying there was anything wrong with it. I'm just saying it can get better than that by being more specific.
Hello, Ted. You look well.
So do you.
How's the new job?
It's fine. Look at us, Joanna. Just like any old married couple having dinner. Who would believe it?
Yes. How's Billy?
Except he fell. And he cut his face. He has a scar, Joanna. From about here to here. I can't help but feel somehow it's my fault. I keep thinking I could have done something. Stopped it.
You can't tell it from a distance, Ted.
What?
I've seen him.
You have?
A few times. Sometimes I sit in that coffee shop across the street and watch when you take him to school. He looks like a terrific kid.
He is. You sat in that coffee shop across from school.
Watching my son. Ted, I've been living in New York the past 2 months.
You've been living here, in the city.
Ted, the reason I wanted to see you, I want Billy back.
You want what?
I want my son. I'm through sitting in coffee shops, watching him from across the street.
Are you out of your mind? You're the one that walked out on him. Remember?
Ted, listen to me. You and we had a really crappy marriage. Look, don't get so defensive, okay? It was probably as much my fault as it was yours. I was really screwed up.
Oh, Joanna, I don't give a...
Ted, all my life, I'd either been somebody's daughter or somebody's wife or somebody else's mother. All of a sudden, I was a 32-year-old, highly neurotic woman who had just walked out on her husband and child. I went to California because that was about as far away as I could get. Only, I guess it wasn't far enough. So I started seeing a shrink. I've had time to think. I've been through some changes. I've learned a lot about myself.
One thing, okay? Just tell me one goddamn thing.
I've learned that I want my son.
Joanna, go be a mother. Get married, have kids. Don't get married, have kids. Do whatever the hell you want. I don't give a damn. Just leave me out of it. And leave my baby out of it.
Teddy, you can't discuss this rationally.
Oh, Joanna, go fuck yourself.